Alright, so coming into this chapter, we're seeing Usami track down Takeda, that old first grader curse user that we've been following these last couple chapters. In the previous chapter, we saw Maru going berserk on him while unconscious, and before he was able to deliver the final blow to him, Tsurugi stepped in, stopping that because, he felt that would have triggered a war between the humans and the Sumerians. And then after that, Cross jumped in, and I guess that sequence led to Takeda being able to scurry away, which is, where we're picking up at the beginning of this chapter. And Usami is able to stop him using curse speech. He actually has the snake eyes and the fangs drawn on his hand. This is actually a really cool application of using the curse speech. And then of course this raises a ton of questions. It's wait, is Usami a Inumaki descendant? Is he a part of that clan? Does that mean that he actually has this curse technique? I don't know. The Inumaki clan was never really fleshed out or explored all that much in the first series. I mean, go figure. I always thought that Usami was a descendant of the actual Usami. And if you don't know who that is, that's fine, because only really I guess hardcores would know who that character is. I think he's only mentioned once outside of supplementary information, when Kusakabe is fighting against Sukuna. But his curse technique was the ability to summon various Shikigami in the form of chess pieces, which can create a pseudo-domain marked by squares and lines on the ground or space. Considering that this Usami is not doing that, I guess he's not a descendant of him, and the name is more so just recycled because Gege never fleshed out this guy in the first series. Your guess is as good as mine. But we're coming back to the end of the previous chapter with Cross picking up Tsurugi, and he's like, what did you just say? Answer me. Did you just say the word neighbors? And Tsurugi's like, that's what you guys call it, right? Maru said it's a friend who understands why the things that matter to you are so important. And Cross is like, you think we could be neighbors? You do know about this country's history, don't you? What could you humans possibly understand about us? I know hearing the word neighbors in this context is weird, because we, at least English speakers, know that neighbors doesn't mean what they're talking about here. But according to the Sumerians, it means a friend who understands why the things that matter to you are so important, which is best friend. Could be how Nakama is used in One Piece. Nakama could be comrade or teammate or something like that, but it's more so, I guess, just better to say Nakama since it's its own thing. But aside from that, Cross really irks me in this chapter because he has this weird grudge against humans, and how we apparently did something to him. I say we, them, and how we'll never understand what he's going through, what the Sumerians are going through. And it's why don't you just tell us? That'll help. We don't know anything about the Sumerians. Why are you here? Why are you refugees? Why are you so upset? Maybe just a little bit of communication would help. I'm not saying you have to lay your emotions out on your sleeve and just show your cards on the table. At least just give us a sentence of why you're here. What happened? That would help, right? Even at the end of this chapter, when he is called out for that, he still says nothing. Then after this, he decides that he wants to send Maru back to the mothership to treat his injuries that he received in the previous fight. Even despite Usami saying no, he's like, no, we're going to send him to the mothership. He assumes that Cross thinks that they're going to try to probe him. No, not probe him, but take biological information from him. Then Cross tries to go undercover as Maru by taking his eye bandage thing and putting it on himself. I guess he's just trying to get further intel, or just trying to further see the true intentions of Tsurugi and Yuka. Then we're coming to by far the most interesting part of this chapter, and Tsurugi is waking up from his, I guess, coma, because he was close to death in the previous chapter from, getting stabbed by Takeda and whatever damage he took from Maru. But before he wakes up, we see freaking Mahito. Mahito is like, darn, so it's not him after all. And then Tsurugi wakes up. Very hype sequence. So I assume that this means that Mahito is still chilling in the void that we saw in the last chapter. After Sukuna decided that he was just going to pull a complete 180 out of nowhere and not be the character that he was the entire series, and decide to just live in the afterlife with his ladyboy forever, or whatever that place is. And it made it seem like Mahito was stuck in that purgatory because he couldn't move on or whatever, even though Mahito will always be reincarnated essentially as long as there is still curses, because he represents the fear that humans have of humans themselves. And that goes into a whole speech about how Yuji said, even if you keep coming back, I'll always be there to stop you. And that's, I think, what we're coming to here, because him saying, so it's not him after all, he's referring to Yuji. I mean, come on, who else is he referring to? And this is great because it means that Yuji is not dead. I think this confirms that, right? Yuji is still alive, and this is the second consecutive chapter where Yuji is brought up. We saw him in the previous chapter. We saw that back in the day at some point he had fought Takeda. So now, with Mahito saying this, it means Yuji's not dead. And I think this is probably setting up that Mahito is going to come back, and then maybe Yuji's going to kill him again. And if we're lucky, we'll get that sequence. Because like I also talked about before, I don't think Yuji's going to come back and like save the day at the end of the series. Like, he's not going to be the one that defeats Deborah, because that's just not how shonen manga work. Like, the new pro tags of this series have to be the ones that win in the end. At best, we're going to see Yuji maybe fight Deborah or something, maybe something like that, but he won't defeat him. Actually, I wouldn't even be surprised if Deborah kills Yuji. But anyway, this is cool. Yuji's still alive, and Mahito's probably going to be reincarnated at some point. So we got that to look forward to. Then we come to this sequence where Cross, impersonating Maru, is going with the gang to this amusement park because they were going to show Maru this. And Cross is just angrily depressed, I guess. So of course he's not enjoying this. And he's unable to keep up this facade of trying to be Maru because he can't cosplay Tanjiro the way that Maru does. Like, he is giving away big hints that he's Cross almost immediately, and I love that Yuka picks up on it, because I really would have been upset if Gege just portrayed Yuka as being so stupid that she couldn't figure out that this was Cross and not Maru. And then they go into this long speech about religion and how it works in Japan and how it works overseas and everything. I'm not really going to get into that stuff, but it's also just showing that Yuka is trying to get through to Cross, because he has this huge wall up, he has this big vendetta against humanity for some reason, even with him going as far as saying that humans like you have trampled on our way of life without even realizing it. Sometimes by standing idly by, sometimes by outright stealing from us. What does that mean? I don't think we're supposed to know yet, but I really hope that this isn't alluding to the fact that cursed energy comes from the Sumerians inherently. Like Tengen or whoever before Tengen somehow interacted with the Sumerians, or it was like a Sumerian that left Sumeria or whatever the name of their planet is, came to the planet, and then whatever happened with them led to cursed energy and sorcerers and all that stuff. Because if that is the case, that is literally just Naruto and Chakra. But anyway, after this sequence, Yuka asks Cross to come with her to this doctor's appointment because, I don't know, she's trying to like further get through to him and say, hey, you know, we're not evil the way that you think that we are, and hey, look at my diagnosis, because it turns out Yuka has a brain tumor and she's going to die in 6 months. This came out of left field. All right, Gege, let's see where this is going. And also the 6 months thing, I suppose that's supposed to line up with the lifespan of this series, because Gege said it was only gonna last 6 months or something like that. Even despite that, Cross is really not really showing any compassion here, which I guess is expected. And they further have this back and forth until it gets to the point of where Cross is like, don't compare yourself to us. We suffered a man-made disaster, not some illness or unfortunate accident. And Yuka's like, sure, but you said I had my future stolen from me too. Maybe you lost your home, but you won't die. I'm gonna die. And then Cross says, you think you're gonna change my mind because you won a contest of bad luck? It's like, whoa, that's mean. But him saying, we suffered a man-made disaster, not some illness or unfortunate accident, I guess that's alluding to how the Sumerian Empire fell and why they had to leave their planet and come to Earth, which Cross is not grateful for at all, and it really irks me. And Yuka's like, it's okay to be upset about how unfair it was, and it's okay to not forget it, so just tell me what happened to you and your people, because we are not your enemies, which is sound logic. I appreciate that Gege is using Yuka as this mouthpiece here. And then, of course, Cross just deflects this, doesn't answer anything, and he just continues to be idiotically angry at her. And it goes into them metaphorically talking about stealing and whatnot. And she goes on to say, and how long will you steal for? And Cross says, hating people and stealing from them is easy, and that's why it becomes an endless cycle. And Yuka says, well, let's put an end to all that, Cross. So overall, this was a good chapter, but Cross is just so frustrating that it makes me like not enjoy his dialogue, because I just want him to like shut up or get beat up or something. You know what I mean? But maybe that's what Gege wants. Hopefully this gets resolved in the next chapter, because I just want to move on from him. He for sure has go away heat from me. I don't even care to see his character arc or his resolution. I just want him off the page. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. If you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.